My name is Emma. I am 22 years old. Last month, I moved to Chicago. It was my first job, my first apartment, and my first time living completely alone. The apartment was small, very small. The rent was cheap. That was the only reason. I could afford it. The building was old. The walls creaked at night. The wooden floors squeaked with every step. But I didn't mind. It was my home. I worked as a junior graphic designer. The salary wasn't high, but it was enough to pay the bills. Every evening, after work, I returned to my apartment, cooked a simple dinner, read a book, then went to bed. Life was quiet, peaceful, or so I thought. One Saturday morning, I decided to clean the apartment. The previous tenant had left in a hurry. There was dust everywhere, old boxes, broken shelves, and worn-out furniture. While moving my bed, I heard something strange. Knock, knock. The floor sounded different. I looked down. One wooden floorboard was slightly loose. I knelt beside it. Carefully, I lifted it. Underneath, there was a small space. Inside lay an old leather diary. It was covered in dust. The cover was cracked. Its pages had turned yellow. It looked very old. I wiped the dust away. On the first page, someone had written, Elizabeth Carter. Below the name was a date, March 12, 2008. I frowned. That was 15 years ago. Curious, I began reading. The first pages were completely normal. Elizabeth wrote about her work, her neighbors, her favorite coffee shop, the weather, ordinary things. I smiled. It was just someone's journal, I thought. But then, a sentence caught my attention. One day, a young woman named Emma. My heart skipped. Emma. That was my name. I kept reading. She will move into this apartment. She has brown hair, green eyes, and a small star-shaped birthmark. I suddenly stopped breathing. I touched my shoulder. Hidden beneath my shirt was a tiny, star-shaped birthmark. No one knew about it. Almost no one. My hands started shaking. This can't be real. I whispered. Maybe. It was another Emma. I turned the page. The next sentence froze me. Her full name is. I slowly read the words. Emma Williams. That was my name. My full name. The diary had been written 15 years before I moved here, before I even graduated school, before anyone knew I would ever live in Chicago. I quickly closed the diary. My heart was racing. This has to be some kind of joke. I stood up, walked across the room, then looked back at it. The diary was still lying there, waiting, almost as if it wanted me to keep reading. After several minutes, curiosity won. I picked it up again, took a deep breath, and turned to the next page. I turned the page. The next sentence read, Tomorrow morning, Emma will wake up late. She will spill coffee on her white shirt. She will almost miss the bus. I laughed nervously. What nonsense. I closed the diary. The next morning, my alarm didn't ring. I woke up 30 minutes late. I rushed into the kitchen. While pouring my coffee, the cup slipped. Brown coffee covered My white shirt. I froze. No. I whispered. I changed my clothes. Ran outside. The bus doors were already closing. The driver looked at me, then smiled. Come on. He waited. I got on. Just in time. Every word had come true. That evening, I opened the diary again. My hands were shaking. The next page said, Emma will receive a phone call. That changes her weekend. Only a few hours later, my phone rang. It was my manager. Emma, can you work this Saturday? We have an important client. I slowly looked at the diary. Again. It was right. For weeks, the diary predicted small things. Lost keys. Unexpected rain. A stranger asking for directions. Even the exact song. Playing in a coffee shop. Nothing was wrong. Nothing dangerous. But everything happened. Exactly. As written. I couldn't sleep. I had one question. Who was Elizabeth Carter? The next weekend, I visited the apartment manager. Do you know who lived here before me? He thought for a moment. Elizabeth. I've heard that name. But she disappeared. About 15 years ago. No one ever found her. A cold feeling ran through my body. I searched the city library, old newspapers, public records. Hours passed. Finally, I found an article. Local writer missing. Elizabeth Carter. Age 28. Last seen. Leaving her apartment. She disappeared. Without a trace. No body. No evidence. No answers. I stared at her photograph. It was the same woman from the diary. That night, I read further. The diary changed. The writing became more personal. If you're reading this, it means the diary chose you. I frowned. The diary chose me. I continued. I cannot explain everything. You wouldn't believe me. But someone will try to stop you. Do not trust the man wearing the gray coat. The next afternoon, I left work early. As I crossed the street, a man in a gray coat smiled at me. Excuse me. I think you dropped this. He held out a small envelope. I remembered the diary. My heart raced. Without saying a word, I stepped back. I don't think it's mine. I quickly walked away. The man watched me until I disappeared around the corner. That night, I opened the diary again. Good. You listened. I couldn't breathe. How could the diary know? I turned to the final pages. There, folded between them, was another envelope. I carefully opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Dear Emma, if you are reading this, you have already discovered that this diary is not about predicting the future. It is about changing it. Every warning I wrote was the mistake I once made myself. I couldn't save my own life, but perhaps I could save yours. Tears filled my eyes. Elizabeth hadn't known my future. She had simply hoped someone, one day, would avoid the same mistakes she couldn't. I looked out the apartment window. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid. I felt grateful. Elizabeth's story had not ended with her disappearance. It lived on, through her diary, and now, through me. A week later, I donated the diary to the City Museum, along with Elizabeth's story, so no one would ever forget her. Sometimes, the greatest gift isn't knowing the future. It's learning from someone else's past. Life always gives us a second chance if we're willing to listen.